This is the dinar shift, and for years, we have analyzed the flow of international finance, tracking signals that might indicate a fundamental change in the valuations of certain currencies. What we are seeing right now, after what seems like an endless cycle of waiting, speculation, and unverified rumors, suggests that a significant event may finally be unfolding. The latest, most compelling reports circulating through established financial networks indicate a potential breakthrough that could redefine the entire timeline. The Tier 4B authorization codes are reportedly now live. This technical activation, if confirmed, represents the unlocking of the essential banking infrastructure required to begin private exchange mechanisms for currencies like the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong. This development moves far beyond the scope of a typical rumor. It suggests a critical technical milestone has been reached in the anticipated currency revaluation process that millions have been monitoring worldwide. It is a moment that demands attention and careful, objective analysis. Stay with us as we dissect these technical reports, explore the implications, and explain why this particular wave of news carries a weight that feels fundamentally different from any previous false alarm in this long-running story. Over the preceding day, a confluence of reports from sources generally considered reliable within the complex ecosystem of global currency reform has provided converging evidence that the Tier 4B codes have been officially keyed into the world's major banking and secure financial settlement systems. For months, insiders and analysts specializing in this area have consistently hinted at the proximity of this event, suggesting that all preparatory steps were nearing completion. The key difference now, however, is the alleged detection of live active backend system engagement. This technical activity is the necessary signal that transforms a speculative promise into an operational capability. In functional terms, these authorization codes are precisely what grants official redemption centers and commercial banks the final, indispensable clearance required to process private currency exchanges for all registered holders. Without the digital confirmation provided by these codes, no currency can move into liquidity under a new framework. The current stir in the community is entirely due to this alleged shift from static readiness to active initiation, sparking worldwide attention from curious onlookers and longtime followers alike. To fully appreciate the gravity of these reports, we must first revisit the classification system used in discussions of global currency adjustments. The process is divided into multiple tiers, each representing a distinct group of participants in the settlement sequence. Tiers 1 and 2 are generally reserved for the highest echelons, state-level actors, sovereign entities, and massive institutional financial bodies involved in large-scale government and organizational settlements. Tier 3 typically includes large private syndicates, specific humanitarian projects, and major corporate groups, often those with prearranged settlement agreements. This structured approach ensures a controlled, orderly implementation. Understanding this hierarchy is vital because it establishes the precise position of the current news within the overall transition plan, showing exactly where the focus of the systemic activation is now directed. The focus of today's conversation is strictly on Tier 4B, the level that holds the most relevance for the everyday individual watching this process. Tier 4B is the designation assigned to private retail holders, encompassing the vast number of ordinary citizens who acquired lower denomination currencies, including the Iraqi Dinar, the Vietnamese Dong, and other specific notes like the Zimbabwean currency, over a prolonged period. This particular tier represents the public-facing segment of the revaluation scenario. Therefore, when reports surface stating that the codes are live, they are specifically referring to the activation of the final individual redemption level. If these reports prove accurate, it means the necessary digital permissions have been granted, enabling banks to commence the procedures for confirming and scheduling appointments, verifying the authenticity of currency holdings, and preparing for the ultimate release of exchange funds under the new specialized financial framework. This explains the intense and concentrated scrutiny currently being directed toward this specific technical classifications. Closer examination of how these activation codes are thought to function reveals a technical process tied to highly secure global banking authorizations. It is not an abrupt or instantaneous event, but rather a methodical, multi-step sequence. A common analogy used to describe this mechanism is the turning of a key within a vault. The vault does not immediately fly open, but the complex internal mechanisms and locking components begin their measured, sequential movement, unlocking layers of security and accessibility one after the other. The reported Tier 4B codes are understood to represent secure authorization signals within a technologically advanced or quantum-linked financial system designed for immutable transaction tracking and total integrity. Once these codes are successfully validated across global treasury networks and verified by major banking nodes, they transmit the operational command that allows redemption centers to begin the actual physical processing of currency exchanges. This technical news, far more than any political or speculative statement, constitutes a tangible potential turning point for all currency holders observing the situation. The current surge in attention is magnified by the unusual degree of synchronicity observed across previously disparate indicators. Historically, moments of high anticipation were often based on isolated movements. A hint of progress in Iraq might be countered by a persistent silence from U.S. financial channels, creating an atmosphere of unreliability. However, the present moment is marked by reports suggesting coordinated movement across all three critical pillars: Iraq, Vietnam, and the U.S. banking sector. The Central Bank of Iraq has provided documented evidence of completing substantial reforms aimed at stabilizing its monetary policy and modernizing its exchange rate infrastructure to international standards. Concurrently, the banking networks in Vietnam have publicly announced upgrades to their core clearing and settlement capabilities. Furthermore, whispers within the U.S. financial community describe broad-based internal software and technology updates implemented across major banks within the last week. This simultaneous technological readiness, coupled with the reported appearance of test or placeholder rates within core systems, paints an unprecedented and coordinated picture of implementation preparedness. The history of these updates is, admittedly, fraught with instances of rising hope followed by disappointment, a recurring pattern that makes skepticism a completely rational response. It is a fair question to ask whether this is simply another iteration of a long-running, unsubstantiated rumor. Yet, even the most cautious financial observers are noting a distinct structural integrity to the latest wave of information. Instead of relying primarily on anonymous, unverified posts in online forums, the current reports are increasingly attributed to experienced financial contacts, banking technicians, and personnel describing observable, actual system changes. These sources are detailing tangible back-end updates to the technology that powers the global interbank settlement process. While every official announcement must be awaited to confirm the final change, the alignment of so many verifiable system movements across multiple jurisdictions suggests a level of structured preparation that is difficult to dismiss as mere coincidence. Let's dedicate a moment to the documented steps taken by Iraq. Over the past several months, the Central Bank of Iraq, CBI, has executed a deliberate and comprehensive series of reforms focused on achieving currency stability and modernizing its entire monetary policy framework. This modernization has involved complex coordination with international regulatory bodies, the tightening of anti-money laundering and compliance mechanisms, and the crucial establishment of digital pathways that are seamlessly compatible with major global clearing systems. These actions were neither arbitrary nor random. They represent a list of non-negotiable prerequisites necessary for Iraq to participate fully and transparently in significant international currency activities. The public completion of these systemic tasks confirms that the foundational technology and regulatory structure are in place for any potential exchange rate adjustments that may follow, regardless of the ultimate timeline. Iraq's documented progress toward financial modernization stands as a tangible, factual part of this unfolding narrative. Vietnam is playing an equally crucial and documented role in this intricate, unfolding story of synchronized global preparations. The Vietnamese government and its banking authorities have dedicated significant effort in recent periods to enhancing financial transparency, actively increasing the nation's currency reserves, and rigorously integrating its domestic digital payment systems to ensure full compatibility with demanding international standards. The Vietnamese Dong, which was historically viewed as a peripheral currency in global finance discussions, is now steadily gaining recognition as an integral part of the broader, documented wave of financial modernization sweeping across the Southeast Asian region. When internal updates mention that Vietnam's digital financial infrastructure has successfully achieved synchronization with key international platforms, it represents another major, verifiable piece of the complex puzzle falling directly into its designated place. If the Dong is indeed being prepared for demonstrably wider, more frequent global trade usage and acceptance, then a strategic adjustment in its international valuation would naturally follow as a logical, economic step to support that expanded role. Bringing the operational focus back to the United States, the location widely expected to be the primary hub for private exchange processing, We see financial institutions reportedly linked to the potential exchanges continuing their quiet, yet rigorous technology updates and readiness drills. The specific mention of the Tier 4B codes being successfully entered into the system indicates that these internal banking systems have achieved the critical connection point with the central, secure authorization protocols. This phase is often described as the moment when silent servers finally begin communicating with one another after an extended period of isolated preparation. The excitement observed across online communities is not simply based on abstract words about a rate change, but on the perceived evidence that the technical foundation, the very backbone of the exchange system, is now functionally operational. For longtime watchers of this process, the confirmation of a functioning technical infrastructure is a massive psychological and operational milestone, suggesting that the preparatory phase has given way to the implementation phase. Another noteworthy point of discussion centers on alleged banking screen updates viewed by internal personnel. While the public access to the secure internal screens used for currency exchange processing is entirely restricted, reports suggest that certain bank employees have observed a subtle but profound change in the display of currencies, like the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong. These notes are reportedly no longer appearing as unavailable, grayed out, or hidden assets on internal terminals, but are instead displaying a status that signifies pending rate updates. This observation, if true, does not confirm any final value or number, but it provides compelling evidence that the bank's underlying software is actively configuring and preparing for a forthcoming change. Banks have no logical or operational reason to dedicate resources to modifying live, functional systems unless a tangible operational change is imminent. This kind of discreet, quiet, yet systematic technological preparation is precisely what has fueled the strongest and most sustained wave of technical optimism witnessed in the currency-watching community in a very long time. Furthermore, some of the most sensational reports mention the brief appearance of preliminary test rates, with figures circulating that place the dinar potentially testing above a specific value threshold and the dong testing around another. It is paramount to state clearly that these reported numbers remain entirely unverified and should be treated cautiously, as they are most likely placeholder figures used exclusively for internal simulations. However, the existence of test rates in any capacity within a secure banking environment is significant. A test rate is analogous to a meticulously planned dress rehearsal staged immediately before the curtain rises on a major theatrical production. Its purpose is to thoroughly test every component, every sequence, and every transaction pathway of the system under live scenario conditions. The rehearsal ensures that all technological and logistical components can perform smoothly and securely when the actual final values are finally activated. The very presence of such rigorous testing environments signals that the implementation phase is likely drawing very near. Beneath the immediate technical headlines concerning codes and rates lies a far more profound and enduring global conversation: the monumental shift toward asset-backed financial systems. In recent history, there has been an observable increase in high-level discussions regarding the concept of anchoring national currencies to tangible reserves, specifically gold, strategic commodities, or other verified hard assets. The central objective of this global movement is to restore deep-seated trust and instill enduring stability in the world's highly complex financial markets. If the reported Tier 4B activity is indeed intertwined with the rollout of such an asset-backed or value-based economic framework, it signifies a development far grander than a simple currency exchange. It could mark the inception of a global financial realignment, moving world economies toward a model where currency value is fundamentally linked to concrete resources. The observed preparations, including many nations increasing their gold reserves and signing new, resource-based trade agreements, lend a factual backdrop to this larger global theory. For the everyday individual who has been patiently observing this entire process, this moment represents the potential culmination of years of unwavering patience. Those who chose to hold these currencies for a decade or more were holding more than just paper notes. They were holding on to a powerful belief, demonstrating immense endurance and maintaining a fundamental trust that the predicted financial change would eventually materialize. Now, with the reported activation of the authorization codes and the visible, synchronized movement of global banking systems, the extremely long period of waiting could be nearing its definitive conclusion. However, this period of heightened anticipation is also a critical time for increased caution and vigilance. Scammers and malicious actors thrive on moments of peak excitement and low verification. It remains essential to remember that no legitimate redemption center or authorized financial institution will ever request personal information, advanced fees, or currency holdings in advance of a properly scheduled and verified appointment. Trust only official, publicly sanctioned channels of communication. So, with the technical prerequisites seemingly met, what is the expected sequence of events that follows the activation of Tier 4B? Based on the typical rollout patterns described in historical simulations and alleged internal plans, the next step involves the distribution of notifications or appointment emails to all registered private currency holders. These critical messages would contain personalized scheduling links, explicit step-by-step instructions, and a detailed list of all necessary verification requirements. Once an individual receives and acts upon this notification, they would proceed to attend a formal appointment. At this meeting, they would securely verify their currency holdings, complete and sign the required legal and financial documentation, and initiate the process to have funds accurately deposited into their designated accounts. The rollout is expected to be a structured, managed process that might begin regionally or on a phased basis, expanding nationwide or globally within a limited time frame to ensure both efficiency and maximum security throughout the massive operation. Beyond the logistical and technical mechanics, the entire unfolding situation carries a profound emotional and psychological weight for millions of participants globally. For the communities built around the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong narratives, the potential revaluation has come to symbolize a beacon of hope, the hope for financial sovereignty, the possibility of eliminating accumulated debt, and the chance for a profound new beginning. The years of shared waiting have forged tight-knit online communities that consistently share updates, mutual encouragement, and prayers for a positive outcome. The technical phrase, Tier 4B codes are live, has essentially evolved into a powerful rallying cry, a shorthand for the belief that the end of the long road is finally in sight. Whether or not every single detail proves accurate in the immediate future, the tangible sense of anticipation, unity, and shared resilience across these diverse communities is an undeniable phenomenon that has marked this historical period. The endurance shown through this long watch may soon be acknowledged with substantive, tangible financial results. The potential ripple effects of a major currency revaluation would extend far beyond the personal financial outcomes of individual currency holders. If currencies like the Iraqi Dinar or the Vietnamese Dong experience a substantial and internationally recognized increase in their exchange value, the economic consequences for the issuing nations could be transformative. Such a shift would likely strengthen the national economies of Iraq and Vietnam, dramatically boosting their purchasing power on the world stage, attracting significant new foreign trade partnerships, and injecting massive amounts of necessary capital liquidity into critical national development projects. This influx of value translates directly into tangible benefits: better national infrastructure, increased job creation, and significantly stronger financial independence for these nations. From a wider global perspective, a revaluation could serve to rebalance trade relationships and foster more equitable exchange mechanisms across the world. What began as a complex, niche investment story holds the very real potential to evolve into a documented economic renaissance that impacts millions of lives. The current narrative also strongly supports the growing global trend toward enhanced financial transparency and accountability. Governments, major central banks, and critical financial institutions worldwide are demonstrably moving toward adopting clearer auditing processes, utilizing advanced digital tracking systems, and implementing more secure, non-repudiable transaction methods. This broader global movement toward transparency significantly bolsters the long-term credibility of any large-scale financial transition. When every unit of currency can be accurately traced, verified for authenticity, and reliably backed by a tangible asset base, the fundamental public trust in the financial system increases dramatically. This principle is at the core of what the rumored advanced or quantum financial systems are designed to achieve: the creation and maintenance of absolute integrity at every conceivable transactional level. Even historical skeptics acknowledge that the trajectory of global finance is undeniably moving toward a future of greater accountability and structural honesty. As we approach the critical juncture of this news report, one overarching message is non-negotiable: stay calm, remain thoroughly prepared, and be highly informed. Significant global transitions of this magnitude rarely, if ever, occur in a single instant flash. They are always designed to unfold through structured, deliberate phases and sequences. If the reports regarding the Tier 4B activation are genuinely accurate, we are transitioning from the long-standing rumor and preparatory phase into the final operational phase. Therefore, it is absolutely essential to ensure that all personal documentation is safely organized, to monitor for official verified updates through credible channels, and to strenuously avoid any speculative actions that could result from misinformation or emotional haste. History has repeatedly demonstrated that meticulous patience and careful process navigation often yield the most successful outcomes. Allow the established process to proceed as planned, and use this time to wisely prepare for whatever verifiable developments emerge next. To encapsulate the full significance of this moment, we must pause and internalize what these converging signs represent. After years of sustained uncertainty, the documented and reported indicators are aligning with a remarkable degree of synchronicity. Iraq has completed key economic preparations. Vietnam has successfully modernized its financial infrastructure. Global banking systems are reportedly synchronized for a major event. And now, the news suggests the pivotal Tier 4B codes are live. Whether one views this convergence through the lens of economic destiny, complex financial engineering, or simply fortunate timing, there is no doubt that the global community is potentially witnessing a turning point in modern financial history. This could truly herald the dawn of a new era defined by greater value, unprecedented transparency, and a massive shift in economic opportunity. Keep your attention keenly focused, maintain a grounded perspective, and hold your resolve steady. The developments of the upcoming days and weeks could easily form a new chapter that financial experts and economists will be compelled to study for decades to come, marking the final stage of this long and historic wait. We understand that a significant portion of this community has been dedicated to this narrative for many years, enduring countless peaks of excitement and inevitable valleys of delay. The resilience demonstrated by the Dinar and Dong communities is truly noteworthy, reflecting a deep conviction in the eventual reality of the projected financial adjustment. This shared experience of long-term belief has created a unique social environment where encouragement and vigilance are the dominant themes. The current technical reports serve as the highest validation point to date for this collective belief, suggesting that the systems designed to accommodate the public are now running their final operational checks. It is the culmination of financial planning, national economic reform, and the implementation of sophisticated global financial technologies, all converging at this single critical point in time, shifting the story from expectation to potential execution. The technical sophistication reportedly involved in this Tier 4B activation cannot be overstated, extending beyond mere communication between two banks. These authorization protocols are said to be integrated within a vast, multi-layered system that operates on a global scale, ensuring that the process is secure, auditable, and incapable of being tampered with. This complexity is why the reports from verified banking technicians carry such significant weight this time. They are not speaking in hypotheticals. They are allegedly describing the successful integration of specific digital sequences and access permissions that govern the flow of funds in a protected, controlled environment. The technical success of this integration is the factual foundation upon which the entire subsequent process of scheduling and exchanging must rely. If this foundation holds true, it represents the single most important technical confirmation that the multi-year process is finally proceeding into its final, most highly regulated phase. Considering the extensive monetary reform undertaken by the Central Bank of Iraq, it is vital to reflect on the nature of the steps they have taken to stabilize the Iraqi dinar. Their actions have been focused on long-term stability rather than short-term gains, implementing measures to reduce reliance on cash, control inflation, and build public trust in their monetary policy. The coordination efforts with international bodies such as the IMF have ensured that their new financial architecture adheres to the stringent requirements necessary for participation in the global banking community. These structural improvements, which include digital clearing and stronger anti-corruption frameworks, are not simply gestures. They are necessary, documented economic actions that support the viability of the Iraqi economy under any new exchange rate regime. The completion of these prerequisites is the very backbone of the current confidence surrounding the IQD's potential future trajectory in international markets. Similarly, the focus on modernization in Vietnam is a critical element often highlighted in these discussions. The State Bank of Vietnam has prioritized financial inclusion, the strengthening of bank capitalization, and most importantly, the adoption of international data exchange standards like ISO 2022. These are massive, complex technology overhauls designed to bring Vietnam's banking sector fully into the 21st century global economy. When reports suggest that the Vietnamese Dong's digital infrastructure is now seamlessly synced with international platforms, it is a testament to the success of these long-term national reform policies. This readiness to handle high-volume, secure digital cross-border payments positions the VND not as an isolated local currency, but as a potential player in regional and global trade settlements, making the economic rationale for a strategic revaluation a matter of national interest and economic strategy. The alleged appearance of test rates within the private banking systems, even if unverified and purely placeholder, serves a vital purpose in the operational playbook. These simulations are not designed to indicate the final public rate. Rather, they are complex stress tests. They are used to verify that the liquidity mechanisms are fully functional, that the accounting software can handle the transactional volume at the new parameters, and that no system will crash or malfunction when the real values are implemented. Banks must be certain that the moment of transition, the instantaneous shift from the current value to a new one, occurs flawlessly and securely. The very fact that these highly complex rehearsals are reportedly taking place signifies that the institutions are moving past the abstract planning stages and into the final, critical phase of operational readiness, ensuring system integrity above all else. For those focused on the redemption process in the United States, the reports of technology updates and readiness drills confirm that designated financial institutions are treating this event as a high-priority, imminent deployment. These are not minor patch updates. They are systemic preparations for a massive influx of private holder transactions. The Tier 4B code activation confirms the go signal for these internal systems, ensuring that everything from teller training and security protocols to the final disbursement mechanisms is locked and ready for deployment. The goal is to facilitate an efficient, secure, and orderly process for millions of individuals, preventing bottlenecks and ensuring regulatory compliance. This structured preparation is what differentiates the current atmosphere from previous moments of high anticipation, emphasizing organization and control. The concept of the revaluation being tied to a global asset-backed framework speaks to a broader, philosophical shift in international economics. The post-Bretton Woods era has been dominated by fiat currencies, but a growing consensus among nations is favoring a return to value-based stability, often secured by strategic gold or commodity reserves. If this framework is indeed what underpins the current financial activity, the revaluation of currencies like the Dinar and Dong could be interpreted not just as a reward for past holders, but as an integral visible step in a monumental global economic transition. This context adds a layer of macroeconomic weight to the internal banking updates, suggesting the technical moves are part of a much larger, internationally coordinated effort to stabilize and re-anchor world finance to verifiable value. The necessity of extreme caution during this period cannot be overstated, particularly concerning fraudulent activities. As excitement reaches a zenith, so too does the risk of exploitation by bad actors. Every individual must commit to a personal protocol of security. Always verify information through multiple, independent, and credible sources. Be deeply skeptical of any communication, be it email, phone call, or social media post that attempts to pressure you into revealing personal information, transferring funds, or sending currency in advance of a verifiable, scheduled appointment. A legitimate financial process, especially one of this magnitude, will rely only on secure, established, and official communication channels, typically initiated by a designated redemption center or recognized banking partner following a clear verified protocol. Vigilance is your greatest asset in this final stage of the process. Let us detail the expected sequence of events following a confirmed Tier 4B activation, moving from the technical to the individual level. Once the codes are live and confirmed operational, the next immediate phase involves the release of specific, personalized notification messages. These communications, potentially delivered via encrypted email or secure portal access, will contain a unique link or number necessary to proceed. This is followed by the scheduling of a personal appointment at a secure, designated redemption center. The individual's role will be to bring their physical currency and necessary identification for a multi-step verification process. Following successful verification, the final step involves signing the mandatory documentation and establishing the necessary accounts to receive the new post-exchange funds. The entire process is designed for a methodical, phase-by-phase rollout to maintain both security and logistical control. The emotional power embedded within the Dinar and Dong stories extends far into the communities themselves. This is a story of shared experience, years of reading updates, discussing theories, and providing collective encouragement through times of doubt. The sustained hope for financial freedom and the opportunity for a renewed start have bound these individuals together. The phrase Tier 4B codes are live has become more than technical jargon. It is a profound rallying cry for the community, a confirmation that their long-held belief is potentially being validated by the most concrete evidence to date: systemic banking movement. This shared journey has taught resilience, and if the reports hold true, that resilience may soon be acknowledged with a tangible, measurable result that shifts the financial landscape for every participating individual. The potential for a global economic rebalance is a fascinating consequence of this entire narrative. If the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese Dong are revalued, it signifies a massive injection of economic power and dignity into their respective national economies. This new financial strength allows Iraq to fund crucial infrastructure projects, generate stable employment, and move toward genuine financial independence, reducing its susceptibility to external pressures. For Vietnam, it accelerates its rise as a stable, modern trade partner in Southeast Asia. Such currency adjustments help to create fairer exchange relationships worldwide, promoting a more balanced international trade system where developing economies can participate with greater equity. What began as a personal financial pursuit has the potential to manifest as a genuine, globally impactful economic renaissance. The increasing emphasis on digital tracking and secure transaction methods is not coincidental. It is a foundational response to historical issues of corruption and financial opacity. The alleged implementation of advanced, secure financial systems, the quantum or modernized network, is fundamentally about creating integrity. It ensures that every transaction is immutably recorded, verified against compliance standards, and traceable to its source. This global movement toward transparent and auditable finance is a powerful macro trend that lends credibility to any major financial transition occurring today. The very mechanism by which Tier 4B is reportedly being activated is designed to operate within this framework of absolute accountability, building trust not only for the individual participants but for the wider international regulatory community as well. Therefore, the message for the Dinar Shift audience as we enter this phase is one of deliberate, informed action. Major financial shifts are complex, and they unfold over time, not in a single rushed moment. If Tier 4B is genuinely active, it means the process has begun its execution phase. Your focus must now shift entirely from speculation to preparedness. Ensure your documentation is ready. Monitor only the most credible and official news sources, and avoid the emotional noise that often accompanies such large-scale events. The careful, considered management of this final stage will determine the success of your personal outcome. The historical context of this long journey teaches a simple truth. Those who demonstrate the greatest patience and exercise the greatest wisdom in the final moments are generally the ones who receive the greatest reward. To conclude our report, take a moment to absorb the magnitude of what is reportedly occurring. After years of uncertainty and quiet preparation, the signals are now allegedly converging perfectly. Iraq's foundation is set. Vietnam's systems are integrated, the global banking networks are synchronized, and the core Tier 4B authorization codes are reported as fully active. Regardless of how one frames this moment, be it as destiny, as the inevitable consequence of global economics, or as the simple fruition of technical planning, we may be witnessing a historical financial turning point. This could mark the beginning of an era characterized by unparalleled opportunity, enhanced transparency, and a renewed emphasis on value in global currency. Keep your eyes sharp, your mind centered, and your resolve unwavering. The unfolding narrative over the next few days could easily become a pivotal chapter that future analysts and financial historians will reference for generations to come. If this detailed and carefully structured breakdown has provided valuable clarity on the current reports and technical status, please make sure to show your support by liking this video, subscribing to the Dinar Shift channel, and crucially, turning on your notifications. Given the critical nature of the reported system activation, new and verifiable information could surface at any moment, and you do not want to miss the subsequent analysis. Until our next update, remain calm, stay alert to official protocols, and remember that patience and preparedness remain the ultimate virtues in this long-awaited process. Now, let us watch carefully as history is written.